Welcome to the X Podcast. You are listening in to this week's brand new episode, and I am here with my friends, Mr. Zach.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing great, man. How are you?
I'm doing well, and we have a special first-time appearing guest, Gregory Miller.
What's
Miller.
up? How's it going?
Say hello.
Hello.
Okay, so Greg is, I was asking him before we started if this was his first time or not, because it feels like he's been part of the X Podcast family for a long time. He is one of, a few things about Greg. He is one of our most consistent viewers. I feel like not recently?
Yeah. No, I am.
Okay, you can leave
Listen
the
to
table
all of
now.
them.
Okay. Okay. No, but I feel like at least for a lot of times, almost every Friday, I feel like I would get a text. Hey, today's was great. Here's what stood out to me, whatever. And you especially over the last 6 months, as we dabbled into different series and controversial, you always had great thoughts, great questions to send in, and been a really special part of X Podcast family. But also in my life, I had the joy when I first moved here 5 years ago. Greg and his now wife Abby were the first couple that I was able to walk through premarital counseling and get the joy to marry.
Yeah.
And now we're gym rats together.
Yeah, something like that.
Gregory is training me in the gym. I'm calling him Gregory. He goes by Greg, but he led an XO Week event last week, and we asked him to give a little blurb, and he said, "Hi, this is Gregory." Gregory. And so I've been calling him Gregory ever since. I can't stop.
I can relate to that because most people call me Zach.
Yes, this same thing. For anybody in our church community that knows Pastor Zach, I'm going to call him Zach around this table, but if you ever call his voicemail, you will be taken aback because he will say, "Greetings, this is Zachary, and you've reached my voicemail, and it'd be a privilege and an absolute joy and honor to speak with you." But
I feel like I sign most of my emails Zachary as well.
You do.
Yeah.
You used to sign your emails in Lithopolis as grace, peace, and blessings, Zachary Brown.
Yeah.
Is that true or false?
Oh, it was for sure true.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Grace and peace be to you.
Yes. It was a version of a King James salutation from Paul and Star Wars put together. It's what it felt like.
Star Wars. That had nothing to do with Star
I
Wars.
don't know.
No,
It just.
that was nothing to do with Star Wars.
Well.
But with Star Wars, I would say, may the Force be with you.
Okay. Yeah, maybe that was it.
Yeah.
Strong start to this week's episode, but I'm excited about the topic. So one of the reasons Gregory is on here, number one, is he really does, all joking aside, I love the way his mind works. If you're familiar with the Enneagram, he's an Enneagram 8, so he's a challenger by nature, and I like that he has a lot of nuanced thoughts and a lot of thoughtful conclusions he comes to and questions he asks on all sides with faith, politics, culture, science, everything. So he always has interesting observations and questions, but also because we want to hit AI. I was looking back on our podcast history. December 9th, we released our first episode about AI. We had Trey on, and I think this is right when ChatGPT hit. And so we talked through, we had, I don't remember all we discussed, but we just had a preliminary discussion of all things AI and, does this hold good for our future? Is this, what does this look like with the workforce? Is this, with some of the different apps that came out, what's art, what's imitation, what's, but anyways, a lot's happened since then.
Yeah.
And so I want to talk about what's happened since then. And I think I told you to, I dabble and you two study. So I've listened to a couple podcasts. I have read a few articles. I have watched iRobot, and I saw and I watched Megan terrorize the world on the big screen about 6 months ago.
I would never watch that movie, by the way.
You would not.
No.
You would pee in your pants. But that should not. Sorry, we'll edit that maybe. But
oh no, I'll admit to it.
Okay. But that's about as far as I've gone. But you two, I want to get a little bit, Greg, into kind of what you do. And I feel like you have the kind of personality that would just study AI on your own for fun anyways. But based on your job, you have some interesting insights. And then, Zach, you've been reading. Well, you have a encyclopedia in front of you, a shiny, what is that, AI 2041 by Chen Kui Fan?
Kai Fu Lee.
Okay.
Actually, and it's 10 visions for our future.
10 visions for our future.
Yep.
Okay, so let's start off. Greg, you are a software engineer for Paycor.
Correct.
Tell us a little bit about what you do, but then also, I mean, just at the gym over the last few months, there's times you've come in, you're like, bro, I was in Cincinnati. And I don't know what you can share and can't share on this podcast, but in some ways, would it be right to say you kind of work with the government?
No.
Sort of, no?
So I work in the financial systems space for Paycor. It's an HR solutions software company. I specifically work in the realm of several things, but majority it has to do with how we collect usage from our customers and then figure out how to bill them and then send that to a extractor to extract money from those companies' bank accounts, as well as just the extractor as a whole is used for all of the money movement that happens between employees and.
So I fully understand what you're saying, but for the lay person that doesn't understand where the extractor is extracting the extraction, how would you describe?
It's so helpful to know
so
that these financial companies look at our lives as we're going to extract money from
an ACH extractor. ACH is a transaction type.
Okay.
ACH extractor is a piece of software that we send code to. It writes a specific file type that Nacha files that Nacha, N-A-C-H-A, that banks use and understand to be able to move money between accounts. Mm-hmm. So an extractor is simply a fancy term to say that we are sending a file off to the bank to say, I need you to move money from this account with this routing number with this, amount of money to this account with this routing number, yada, yada, yada.
Okay. All right. So then what's been the dialogue and the conversations around AI?
For our company, I don't know what all I can share. We are a publicly traded company, and I don't know what's public yet on all of this. But what I can say is there's a heavy leaning in to AI technologies. Since we work in the HR space, we're committing to spend money in spaces like job postings and stuff. So one of the biggest things that a lot of HR companies spend a lot of time doing right now, or HR departments do, is writing job descriptions for a job. And so we've written an AI bot or bought a company, I believe, that wrote an AI bot that will do all that automated for you now. So you put in some base level information and then it spits out and says, oh, okay, based on that, this is your job description. So it'll take a lot of time away there. Other than that, in my own team, we do some support. So we're looking at writing support bots for, we have a lot of, since we track usage across dozens of products, that usage is very different for every customer. And therefore there's a lot of questions about how did this usage get generated? Where did it come from? Why? Yada, yada, yada. And so working in the AI space to possibly write bots that would be able to go interpret what the data has and then spit it out in a legible format for our support people to be able to turn back to them.
So automating a lot of the data that the rest of your team needs.
Yeah.
And if I understand correctly, robotizing roles that humans are currently occupying.
Yeah, so that's another part of my job is right now we're so there already were a few processes automated. We're looking at automating more and then also moving those into a more managed code kind of environment. So right now they're in a software that's made entirely for automating processes. We're moving it into managed code, which means that basically we write the code. We are in charge of it. It's a devy term. Anyways, so we write processes that currently there's a human needing to manually consume data, understand that data, and then go through a decision tree to decide what they need to do based on that data. Mm-hmm. And so recently there was a job that they had to hire a lot of temps, so to say, for, and we were able to basically eliminate all the need for the temps, and the job went from being a person's full-time job for several people down to it took 4 minutes to run once a day. So.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're basically contributing to unemployment.
I wouldn't say that.
We
repurpose the people.
Yeah, okay. But
that's helpful to know.
Yeah, that's a great starting place. So I'm curious, when we look at the future of employment and the workforce and AI, what are we looking at?
Well, I think it's important to know this. So let's have a framing conversation first. I think for a lot of people, when ChatGPT came out last year, it was kind of mind blowing because AI was just this thing that was mostly science fiction, iRobot, or things you had kind of read, heard maybe down the line or down the future, and then all of a sudden it's like it's here, and not only is ChatGPT exploding, but remember that whole like AR avatar photos that was kind of a thing for a while.
You have a new one.
Oh, I got some new.
Can we? Is there a way to show this?
No, I have them, but maybe we'll see later on in post production if we can get some AI photos on there.
I'm gonna send something real quick.
there.
I'm listening.
Okay, yeah, you're gonna pull up some of the ones.
Uh-huh.
Anyways, so I feel like it was this new phenomenon. I mean, when you say great, like it just culturally, like it took us all by surprise. But I think you and I were talking about this off air before we got on. AI technology has been coming for a long time.
Yeah.
And what you're seeing is really the tip of the iceberg when it comes to AI technology. And I think it's important to know this. Oh, what, you got one of the pictures? Is that me as a?
Oh my gosh.
Is that me as a me as a farmhand?
Yeah, I
don't know if you can see it.
I just sent this to our creative team. Hopefully, if you're watching on YouTube, we can have something pop up right now. I don't know if that's possible, but anyways,
Please
yep,
do.
go ahead.
Okay. Anyways, so I think it's important to know, like, it was this brand new thing, and so I feel like there's a sense that it's this new phenomenon and it's this unknown, like, proprietary technology, and people don't know where it's going to go, but really it's been coming for a long time.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing that's important for us to know as we start to frame this conversation in terms of the future of it and work is that it is going to affect almost every single sector of not just our work but our lives as we continue to go down this road with AI and technology. And I think it's going to affect every single part of our lives.
So a couple things around that to put like dates around what he was saying. So like for the first idea of AI was really kind of written in a paper in 1956. And at that point, like AI was thought to, it was entirely just existed in the academia realm. So this has been a concept for a really long time from computer scientists. It wasn't until very recently, it wasn't until 1997 that we saw our first successful model then of machine learning. From there, things have accelerated to...
Now, when you say machine learning, let's just break that down. Simple terms, what does that mean?
Basically, machines are able to take data, understand it, make decisions off of it.
Okay.
That's it. Real simple.
Yep.
And in 1997, we had a lot of data, but as the years have gone on, we've had even more data with the like as the internet's come online, come on board. There's been more data that's come, and a lot of technology has changed just between 1997 and now. I'm sure you were going there, so I don't want to cut you off.
Yeah. So then in 2017, we saw the emergence of deep learning technologies. Deep learning is really interesting, and it's been used to automate a lot of things. It's a really cool YouTube channel I love called Code Bullet. He automates a lot of like popular games that people play using deep learning technology.
So define deep learning.
Deep learning is the next level in from machine learning. Deep learning takes those data sets and then reiterates on them until you get the outcome you want, essentially. So
Basically ChatGPT.
No. ChatGPT is the whole next level then.
Okay.
So deep learning takes, it works on like a neuron network, kind of like how our brains work is the idea. We're trying to replicate that. And so you take a specific input and you pass it in, and then you analyze the outcome. And if it's what you want, then you reward the neuron. If it's negative, you don't reward the neuron.
For example, in practical terms, let's say you have a picture of a dog, okay? And you're trying to get a machine to understand, okay, this is a dog and identify that this is that. You're going to show it thousands, and with deep learning, millions of images. And there'll be dogs, there'll be cats, there'll be other animals, and the machine is going to say, yes, this is a dog, no, this isn't a dog. And each time you're going to tell it if it's correct or not. And over time, as you show it more images, as it's exposed to more things, and it learns the parameters, it's going to analyze the pixels in the image and different things like that. And it's going to get smarter, and it's going to understand and be able to correctly identify that what you're looking at or what the machine is looking at is a dog, for example.
So how is this going to change the workforce?
I think that really depends on what field you're in.
Yeah.
and what technologies you're looking at. Because AI is a very overarching term that covers a lot of different types of technologies that we're seeing now. I think that if you're in any jobs that deal in high data as well as repetitive tasks, you're going to see the biggest impact and the quickest impact. Especially with the emergence of technologies like ChatGPT, we're already seeing like huge changes in the customer service space. Some companies are going entirely to chat-fed bots, and then eventually, if you don't get the answer you want, you might get lucky and get a human. So
It's not a whole lot different than it is now, but
no, but
You rarely
might-
get a
but
human.
the real thing is you might not ever even know that you're talking to a
Right.
bot if you're asking simple enough questions.
Right.
You can train a bot. So like Microsoft has come out with an entire Azure suite targeted towards businesses that want to build out chatbots for their customer service. And so you essentially are using ChatGPT and enabling it to, you set parameters around it, you feed it your own information, it's owned by you, and then it can respond as if it's one of your reps. And because you've already talked about, and maybe you should mention this, how good ChatGPT is at imitating human conversation, you might not ever even know that you have a bot.
yeah.
Versus,
It's eerie.
yeah, versus right now, if you get on a lot of websites, it'll say, I'm a bot agent, I'm here to help you, let me know how I can help you. So
Yeah, what he's referencing is there's studies coming out that's looking at how well our current models, and we didn't let you finish in terms of the next level of what ChatGPT is in terms of learning, but how well these large language models, is the term, are at mimicking human interactions, human behavior. There was a study that was done recently. It was over in Europe. They had like 647 different people, and they showed them different tweets, or I think X's, as they're now called. Thank you, Elon Musk, for that.
Yeah, Elon Musk has now ripped off our church. I just want the record to be-
exactly. Let the record show. But the humans were not able to distinguish. In fact, they actually selected AI-generated tweets and content and said, no, that's human content more than the actual human-generated content.
Yeah.
And so that can lead to obviously a lot of concerns or questions about, okay, what's real, what's not real, what are we reading is human. But you asked a question about the workplace and how this is going to affect the workplace and kind of our daily lives. And, there's two examples in this book that I think would be really fun to talk about, just as an overarching, like a general thing, and then we can kind of go from there. But two things. Number one, we're talking about insurance. And some ties to medical stuff as well, and then education. So let's talk about insurance and medical stuff first.
That's interesting.
So-
You wouldn't think of AI with insurance.
I know, you wouldn't.
Before we go into that, just let the record show as well that I had a Dwight in the Office contest. Tucker was sending me stuff and saying, you have this much time to come out with a blurb, and it was me versus ChatGPT. And I just want you to know, so far, I am
you win?
winning.
Are you
I
winning?
am winning against ChatGPT.
Well, that's good.
So one for me.
Here's the problem. Eventually, you're going to have to stop. ChatGPT doesn't ever stop. It's always there. It's always ready for you.
I don't know. I'm confident.
I'm going to
We'll
text
see.
you at 2:30 this morning and be like, I need you to write me a devotional for
All right.
this thing, and I'm going to see how long it takes you to get
Okay.
back and respond
We'll
to me.
do it.
2:30 this morning.
We'll do
Okay.
it.
So, this is just one example of how AI is going to impact kind of workplace, work environments. So, obviously, this is in this book. There's some fiction, and I can't say that word.
they called it science fiction realism.
Science fiction realism. There you
Oh,
go.
that's a loaded term.
Looking ahead on what the world could look like based off technology. And so, in the future, there is a proliferation of devices. So you have your Apple Watch now, and already the latest models of Apple Watches can provide a ton of medical data. Blood pressure, heart activity, oxygen levels, different things like that. Those kind of devices are going to only continue to get better and more accurate, and there's going to be more data that people are going to be able to collect on a regular basis, including there's even talk about in the future things being able to every so often actually sample your blood and know okay, what vitamin levels you're at, what certain where you're at kind of in terms of your everyday basis. And so all this data is going to get fed into a cloud network somewhere, and insurance companies are going to be able to take AI, and they're going to be able to analyze this data very quickly, and it's going to be trained to understand outcomes based on this data. So, for example, if you have a high blood pressure, AI is going to be trained to know that that is going to lead to a cascading series of health problems over time if you don't deal with that blood pressure. So the AI will make a suggestion to you in the future that if you lower your blood pressure, this will actually increase your chances of living longer and living a healthier, happier life. That sounds great, but we saw the problem of a lot of humans know that already, but they don't necessarily change their behavior. Well, in the future, AI technology will be used to not only make suggestions to people on the fly, but it will incentivize people to make changes with lowering insurance premiums based off the personal decisions that you're making. So, for example, and this applies to every part of insurance. So, health insurance, life insurance, every type of thing you can possibly imagine will be incentivized. Hey, we'll lower the cost of these programs for you as long as you continue to make decisions and produce behavior that is healthy for you. And what's crazy is because we wear this technology all the time, there will be almost like a constant stream or feed of, about push notifications now, of data that comes to you that says, hey, as you're about to take this drink, just know that, this many drinks, and like this is your fourth drink of alcohol in a day. Maybe you should think about not drinking that because it's bad for your health. And if you don't take this, we'll lower your insurance premium by $10 for the next month or whatever. And
That's interesting.
And what's interesting is you think about, the applications of this is just one field, by the way. It could really incentivize a lot of good changes in people. For example, in the book, one person stopped smoking because they were incentivized to lower their health premiums by stopping smoking. However, there's obviously some major privacy concerns in terms of...
Well, I was going to say, yeah, because you're not saying that whatever you wear on your device, they would be legally allowed to translate that information to insurance companies.
So actually in the book, and this is a concept we see at least on Apple, I don't know about all Android devices, but you have to allow the insurance company to have access to certain data. And we see this currently on a lot of devices. And even European nations are pushing this harder, but like the sharing of information, some countries are starting to get pretty strict about. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's something that as we see AI grow, there's going to be tighter controls on how that data is shared and why.
Would the reason that there's more sharing of information in European countries when it comes to insurance be their overall approach towards healthcare in general?
It's not related. I'm talking about data sharing in general.
Oh, okay.
You know how like every website you get on now, you have to accept cookies?
Yes.
That's because of European nations.
Yes.
And being really strict about trackers from websites. So when you just hit accept all, you're accepting all of their cookies they used to put on you, but there's a reason that they're asking you that.
Interesting.
So fast forward to, again, health applications. As AI continues to get better, it continues to being able to have human to AI conversations. As you, for example, let's say you have a health issue and through your health insurance, you make an appointment to go see a doctor or do different things like that. Well, primary care visits, we already see, because of the pandemic, a lot of now telehealth visits and different things like that. We're not going to see, especially as these machine learning models and these large language models continue to get smarter over time, and they're able to process and translate more data, that a lot of your primary care visits, your first visits with doctors, let's say you have a cold, something like that, you're going to be able to go and there'll be machines that will take your temperature to figure out what you're doing, and then you'll be able to present your symptoms to that machine or that application, and it'll say, well, based on these symptoms and your readings, we think you have this. We're going to write a prescription to this. And a lot of doctor work is going to be basically reduced to, okay, I'm now just going to sign off on this script and this diagnosis based off of this machine on these primary care things. So a lot of just your normal everyday doctor's visits, colds, sniffles, vaccines, different things, all done with
Interesting.
AI.
Well, of course, not to take us down another side trail yet, but I mean, you're talking about all of this tracking from our devices. But I mean, you and Gregory were talking offline about how in the future we're not even going to have devices.
Yes.
So you want to tell us about that, Da Vinci?
Yeah,
What's happening in the future?
You want to
I
start?
can.
ahead.
So there's
Mark of the
already-
Beast.
So this is
Yeah, the mark of the beast, exactly.
flipping over. I mean, we talked about how AI is going to impact medical health insurance fields. We're going to shift gears into a different field with some different technology with AI here.
Yeah, so specifically in the AR space, augmented reality, or VR, virtual reality, there's been a lot of growth, especially big news recently was the what's the
Apple
Pro?
Vision Pro.
Apple Vision Pro, that's the name they gave it.
Yep.
And so that's a AR VR headset that they have released. So that's kind of stirred up some more conversation in that space. But specifically talking about wearables that will portray over what you're seeing. I don't know, like for example, we mentioned maps. If you're driving or whatever, you're going to see the arrow in front of you on the road rather than having to look down at your phone.
In your eyes.
Possibly in your eyes. There are talks of contacts. I don't know if you want to mention that, Pastor.
Yeah,
Zach.
so there's actually like companies who have proprietary patents and or other information and stuff out there that are actually creating AR VR contact lens now that you actually wear them, over your eyes, and you'll have access to all your data, different things like that. The future, in 20 years could look like your phone not existing in your hand anymore, in your pocket, but really being in the form of some sort of either glasses technology or contact lens technology that, for example, you blink twice and your iMessage app pops up, in front of you, and you're still in your reality, but like you can then look at, okay, text Russ more, and then, there'll be some sort of haptic feedback in the air somehow, but you'll be able to say, okay, I love Jersey Mike's, and just send it to you that way.
Which you love Jersey Mike's.
I do love Jersey Mike's. And so I think this all points to, again, this has huge ramifications in the entertainment industry, huge ramifications, obviously, in terms of TV, art, gaming. It'll definitely, Apple Vision Pro, the way that they presented it, I don't know if you watched any of their like their videos or different things like that.
Really, yeah.
They definitely they're pushing towards workplace integration in terms of the technology and different things like that as well. That there will be even haptic feedback where there'll be either Siri or whoever will be able to talk back to you in the process of doing that way. And so you almost have like a guide kind of with you throughout the course of the day to have conversations with. So all of that technology is getting more smart. It's going to become more integrated with your physical body, like literally your physical body. And it's going to become less, device oriented. And again, not to be the doomsday guy, but like it'll be pulling data, it'll be pulling information about you, and you're going to have the opportunity to share that with other companies that are, again, using AI. They're taking I think the big thing to know is that data now more than ever is kind of becoming the lifeblood of our the currency, to use that word, the currency of the future, and that whoever has access to this data that they can train their models off of, they can make decisions off of, that's going to be kind of what determines your experience with the world.
Let me ask you both, because I know this book is saying, one are the books you're reading right now? This may be interesting for anybody that is still listening and they geek out over this kind of stuff. What are you studying, reading when it comes to AI?
I have a couple books. Hold on.
This one that you're reading, Zach, is AI 2041 by Kai-Fu Lee. Okay, and it's basically like 10 visions.
Yeah. So this
What's one or two big ones?
so those are two big ones.
Okay.
That he
That
has.
insurance is going to be dramatically changed and incentivized.
Obviously, medical profession.
Medical professional.
Is going to be changed.
Education, yeah.
is a huge one. There's a lot of talk about. I haven't read this next chapter, but there's a lot of talk about he's going to talk about autonomous vehicles.
What is it?
Autonomous vehicles.
Okay.
So transportation.
Yeah.
Everything being done. You're not going to drive a car anymore.
Right.
We've already seen that technology with Teslas and different things like that.
Yeah.
That's going to come on stream and be, especially as we go towards more electric vehicles and different things like that.
Yeah.
The Jetsons.
Yep. There we go. Yes.
Future.
I'm curious. Oh yeah. Go ahead.
So just the other book I have. So I'm reading that one as well, and then The Age of AI and Our Human Future. It's another book covering very similar things, but it goes a little bit more the doomsday route of what could this look like if this goes bad.
Which I do want to have that conversation. Let me ask this: in 5 years, tell me, because sometimes I think this was true about life in any arena, but things sometimes just happen so gradually. I mean, right now this is expediting, but even then, life before you know it, you look back, oh wow, a lot's happened. In 5 years, so not in 20 years, but in 5 years. What are a few things you think will be dramatically impacted in everyday life by AI, different than now? And the average person listening who may not geek out about all this, but wants to know, what should I be expecting? How should I prepare for this? Mm-hmm. What would you say? What's going to be different in 5 years, and what should the average person be thinking to get ready?
So I think that you might see more tasks possibly being automated that you wouldn't think about. So a big stat right now, if you look up 47% AI, you'll get a bunch of news stories telling you that 47% of their jobs are gone in the next 12 years, I believe it is.
Oh, wow.
That's not true. 47% of the tasks that a person manually does at work in the next 12 years could be automated. Now we're talking 12 instead of 5 there. So I think that you're going to possibly see some tasks that maybe are really repetitive possibly getting lifted. That all depends on the company that you're in and how much they're investing in that space. I think more realistically, you're going to see things like Siri on your phone getting way more intelligent, way more intuitive, better responsive. Mm-hmm. You're also going to see, she's already trying to talk to me right now. You're going to see lean in on the technologies like AR. We saw that first with, not first, but one of the big things was Pokemon Go that got a bunch of people excited about that.
Yep.
And then now Apple's really leaning into that. And so 5 year scape in front of us, I think that those technologies are going to become way more forefront than we really think they are right now.
Yeah, think about this. Netflix, people don't realize, or people forget about this. When Netflix first came out as a company, you had to ask them for a DVD.
Mm-hmm. And it was a DVD company.
And it would send you DVDs, and then it would, and then you'd watch it and then ship it back. It was, and then even when it first started as a streaming service, I mean, don't you remember forever? It was there was nothing really on Netflix.
Yeah.
And there was, if you got one blockbuster movie, it was oh my gosh, that's on Netflix. And there was a bunch of stuff that no one had ever heard of. And then it feels like 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015, there was a 3 or 4 year span where it's all of a sudden Netflix just took off like a rocket. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden these big films started coming to Netflix. Mm-hmm. It was this is on Netflix now? And then they started producing original content that was really good and gripping. And I think some of those, like Orange is the New Black was one of their original series that took off. You can expect a similar rise with some of these technologies with AI over the next 5 years. So it's hard to predict exactly what it could look like in 5 years, but I think what's going to happen is you're going to start to see and hear more and more about the integration of AI into our everyday vernacular, in the same way that you're just going to look back and be all of a sudden, oh wow, now AI is part of our life. Yeah. In the same way that Netflix is part of our life, it's going to feel like that over the next 5 years. So robotics is something that's talked about here.
Okay.
So we already have robots in our house, Roomba, different things like that. I know Amazon has, in some parts of the country, already been working on like drone service, deliveries, different things like that. It could be not too long in the future where deliveries are done by a self-driving vehicle, and there is a robot, like there's a box that you put at the end of your driveway that vehicle goes and puts and delivers like into your box, and that it's all done autonomous and things that way. It's hard to tell exactly which field is going to take off the fastest. My guess is the entertainment fields with AR, VR are going to continue to take off, and I think a lot of the bot technology, the conversations are going to take off. We're going to see some of the leaps in education start to begin to happen over the next 5 years. So, but it's going to become more integrated in our life in the same way the Netflix example happened.
I think you also won't realize it, but a lot of for example, Kroger has a whole subsidiary business that takes all of the data from people shopping and analyzes that and makes decisions then based on where and in what markets should we price things, what deals should we run, that evaluates many different inputs from people, what they're buying, what they're looking at online, and then what their stock is. And I have friends that work for the company, and it's crazy some of the data that they're looking at. And so we're going to see a bigger proliferation of that, of companies really harvesting the data of what you're wanting and buying and shopping to push that on you even harder. We're already seeing that really well done by companies like Target and Amazon. And it's just going to,
I remember seeing, I was freaked out. I mean, it was over a decade ago, and I read Charles Duhigg's book, The Power of Habit, and talking about Target leading the way in the way that they advertised and read people. But now with AI compounding all that, it's insane to think about the algorithms.
Yeah, I think it's important to understand this. AI and its integration into your everyday life is coming. There's no stopping it. Like the Pandora's box is open.
And so people should run and hide.
Well,
absolutely
depending on how you view it. I think in a lot of ways, it's gonna
get ready.
I think in a lot of ways it's gonna improve the quality of our life. I think we can have debates on is it going to be healthy for us from a flourishing standpoint, but I think in a lot of ways it's going to continue. I think it's going to make us smarter from an educational standpoint.
Okay.
Its technologies are incredible. I think the big question is start mentally preparing now for how you're going to begin to orient this into your life. Because how fast you adapt to this, or you understand its scope, its ramifications, what it means for you, like you're gonna have to start making decisions based off of that. The biggest question,
but I mean, not to stop you, but I think even somebody probably listening to that, it's like really easy to say that. But somebody probably listening is like, what is that? Okay, what does that mean? What do I do that?
The biggest question is, this is just from me. You might have a different answer to this, Greg. To me, it all comes down to, I think, how comfortable are you with your data and yourself being out there for companies, for-profit companies, government, other things to be able to use.
It's really interesting because, on the flip side of that, I've been listening to some podcasts with fascinating people that Tim Ferriss has had on, who are going the opposite direction and who are not even trusting their data to the cloud anymore. But there's a lot of new companies that are coming out with like cutting edge apps and software for people to actually have different ways. And I don't even know the vernacular, but for them to store their data elsewhere. So I almost wonder if there's going to be a split.
Where are they storing their data if it's not in the cloud? Because if it's not a local thing, then it's still the cloud.
No, I'll send it to you. I don't
I'm
have
interested because
I don't have the expertise to even know how to explain it.
It might use a different term, but if it's not stored on a local device with you, it's in the cloud. It is on someone else's server. It is still the cloud.
Yeah, I don't.
It might not be a bigger interconnected company, but if it is not locally hosted on something you own, then it's in the cloud.
I'm going to find the podcast and send it to you because I don't know the language to.
I also think that on that note though, because I think that's a big question. I think a lot of people have concerns about their data or privacy concerns about information about them just being out there and available for people to use. I think there's a lot of probably fear mongering that goes on
Absolutely.
from media, from others about that. I think now's the time to start getting educated on data policies, on data agreements, on how data is shared, what data is actually shared about you. So what that means is, whenever those notifications on your phone pop up and it says, "Do you agree to share your data with this company?" Take time and read them,
Yeah.
or get on the internet and read about what you're actually agreeing to when you agree to share that data, and by law, what these companies and other companies are not allowed to do with your data. I actually think you're going to see one industry that is small right now that you're going to see begin to expand is things like data privacy, data security. I think you're actually going to see over the next, this is probably going to happen over the next 5 years, you're going to see our government really begin to get involved, and there start to be a lot of lobbyist groups, talks of congressional action, laws about the use of data in America.
What about human rights? What about the rights for robots? What are they going to get?
There
They have
are
any
no rights
rights?
for robots.
Well, not
Everything's
yet.
ones and zeros. They're not sentient. They don't have actual
Oh,
feelings.
I'm not saying I disagree. I promise you, there are going to be people.
I absolutely understand that. I also I've debated in my own head the conversation around, let's say that you have a world like The Sims, okay? And supposedly technology has gotten to the point that these Sims have an actual life that they're living.
Well, because what's that new movie that they're about to release? That's like, I mean, people are like really like starting on this new wave of AI to create new movies based on end of the world scenarios. But what were you and me saw a movie the other day? Remember there was an AI trailer beforehand, and there was like this
Oh,
quote
yeah.
unquote emotional moving scene in the trailer of the person's quote unquote son, but who was a robot.
Yeah.
And yeah, go ahead.
But if you have all these little bots in this world, and supposedly they have feelings and yada yada yada, the conversation was, do you have the right to unplug that computer that they're running on? Because if they are supposedly a bunch of sentient little beings, you're ending their world. But in the end, they're just ones and zeros on a hard drive.
Yeah, I think. So, by the way, I sent to you is Derek Sievers with Tim Ferriss talking about the joys of an unoptimized life, finding paths less traveled, creating tech independence, and it says in parentheses, and risks of the cloud. So I don't know how they're creating tech independence, but there's this whole movement now with a lot of people to do it. Tell me what you think. Yeah, I'm like one really like broad level. I guess I try to put things in because whenever you have the new paradigm shifts in the world, this isn't just new technology, it's paradigm shifts.
Yeah.
When you have new paradigm shifts, I think people can go into extremes. They can just completely resist, and that doesn't do any good because we should be future oriented, not past oriented. And there are going to be advantages. There are going to be benefits. At the same token, the world always gets in trouble if they don't actually think deeply and think critically.
Right.
And just because something's new and novel doesn't necessarily mean it's progress. And there could be ways that it doesn't make humanity flourish. And so I think like the phrase that just came to my mind, maybe it sounds simple, is when it comes to AI, I think to flourish in these new arenas of AI, you need to be able to both adapt quickly and think critically.
Yeah.
I think if you
That's
don't
good.
know how to do either one of those, or if you don't do both of those, you're probably going to get in trouble. You don't want to just buy wholesale any new thing that comes upon, the earth, and any new invention of man. But there's got to be an adaptability. There's got to be an eagerness to learn. There's got to be an eagerness to adapt and to apply what is useful, discard the rest.
Yeah, no, I think that's wise. I think that's probably a good way to approach it. I think the first thing I'll be thinking about with that mindset is, how do I treat my data? How do I treat, what companies can learn about me? Who do I want to learn that? Because, there's definitely some privacy concerns and different things like that when it comes to that. How are they monetizing it? What happens if someone wants to use this against me? One of the examples in the book is actually from an insurance perspective. It's weird from an insurance perspective. I don't know if it's a true one-to-one case, but the AI determines that a relationship between two people actually would not be beneficial for one of the people based off of this like the other person's like station in life, their financial characteristics, where they're at, it would actually be unhealthy for one person to be in the relationship. So it actually starts charging the person higher premiums because in a relationship with them.
Yeah, I think
those are the concerns.
Yes,
But I think there's also a lot of benefits too that can come from it, and there's a lot of ways that it can make our lives better.
Yeah, I mean, I think another maybe good framework to put some guardrails when we think in terms individually and as a society about artificial intelligence. I think in any arena of life you get in trouble if you're not realistic about the limitations of something. Whether it's a tool, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a way of thinking, you always got to think, okay, realistic. As a person, what are my limitations?
Yeah.
And artificial intelligence in the name is artificial. And so if we don't consider what limitations of something that artificial is, I mean, even in terms of, we talk about it whether it comes to digital media, when it comes to intimacy, when it comes to what can fulfill a human longing in relationships, even when it comes to content creation. There is a difference between art and imitation, and the lines can get blurred there for sure.
And that's where I think, so you were talking about jobs being impacted. I think that, in my opinion right now, AI can't replace human creativity. That's a space that I have yet to see. Yes, can it imitate it? And can it imitate it well? Yes. But does it replace creativity that a human has? No.
No.
And it also can't replicate the individual connection that a human can have.
Yes.
You can't replace the emotional connection that you get with someone. Can you replicate it in a way? Can someone get attached to a bot? And I think that's a scary thing where we could potentially look at a future where these bots are trained to be able to replace another person in your life. Yes, possibly. But I think that it can't truly replace that. Like, the coach that came alongside you in high school and was able to just pull you through a hard moment in life by giving you some good advice. I don't know that being able to emotionally connect with you. I don't know that a bot will ever be able to replace that.
Yeah, you can never. Yeah, I mean, there's a difference between a simulation and a soul.
Right.
And kind of to your first point, I think you could say it this way. Bots may be able to produce efficiencies, but they can't produce epiphanies. Like they can never be able to actually create, something. Why are you smiling? You're smiling.
You like saying those gold nuggets.
It's just what comes out, But yeah, I think we will damage ourselves if we don't be realistic about the limitations.
I think that there's an important conversation that needs to happen about, so there's a lot of like red flag waivers right now about this is going to destroy humanity. I think that there needs to be an important conversation around standards and limits without being restrictive. This is an all-out arms race. That's how I would word it right now, between companies and between different countries even. Not in the sense that we're using it as a weapon, actually, but the abilities of these technologies and what they could do for the economy could be huge. And so therefore, there needs to be an allowed space for these things to take off and grow at the rate that people can run with them. But at the same time, we need to set some standards to protect ourselves because there are possibilities in which this could harm people. The proliferation of bad data through things like ChatGPT, since it's human trained, could be dangerous. So there's things like that we need to try and set some standards around, but we don't want to restrict what our future looks like with these technologies.
And these could look like things, for example, a watermark on an article or a tweet or something you read online that is, this was produced by AI.
You think AI produced that watermark on that paper, the obscene paper from Scranton, Pennsylvania?
Is this an Office reference?
It is Office reference.
Yeah, I haven't got to that episode yet.
Okay. You know what I'm talking about.
No, I don't know.
Okay.
But that would be an example of a limit that you would set. So you allow news companies, other ones, to be able to use a ChatGPT to continue to produce content that is good and relevant and quickly that people would want, but also let people know, hey, this is something that's generated by AI, as well as let people know what you're looking at is not human written. We didn't talk Hollywood. That's another one that has a big, all the technology that is now to reproduce an actor's face especially in light of the
Deepfakes and
Yeah,
stuff.
instead of in light of all the writers and the actors strike going on.
Yeah.
right
I was
now.
gonna say, yeah. When is this writer strike gonna end? Well, we're coming
Both
up.
of 'em.
Yeah, no, both of them. Well, we just ordered something today. We were meeting earlier, me, Trey, and Jenny, because I guess it was at UPS. That up until today they were about to go on strike.
Yep.
Yeah.
Teasers.
And I mean, yeah. Anyways, okay. I don't know what all to gather to extract from the extractor who gave us a lot to extract from his extraction. But I will say, hopefully, this conversation is
extracting.
giving you something to extract. It's just, it's
fun to look ahead.
It's fun to look ahead.
but
It's
it raises some good questions to consider.
yeah. This is something
I
important
think-
happening in our world.
A good first step, if you want to try and get ahead of this, go to the privacy settings on your phone and turn stuff off. You will be amazed the amount of apps that ask for permission back to your location that have no reason to have your location. Or I need access to your health data. Why does a game need access to my health data? It probably doesn't actually ask that, but that's a bit of an edge case. But turn off a lot of like your location sharing access for apps, and you'll be surprised some of the apps that ask for it, and then analyze, does this app really need my location?
You're saying
Weather
Big
makes sense.
Brother is watching.
I'm not saying Big Brother is watching, but be smart about what you're
Yeah.
sharing. That's a first practical step. If you are afraid of this AI realm and what the future holds, then take control of your own devices, turn off the privacy sharing things. And like I said, you might be surprised what asks for it. Kroger, does it really need your location?
Yeah. And again, I'm going to go back to since I'm, I have thoughts, but I'm in general ignorant about all the minutia of it. But so I'll just throw out another pointless, high level thought. In all these things, live in wisdom, but don't live in fear.
Yeah.
Like educate yourself. I mean, this is so stupid practical when it comes to technology. Like if you're like, I'm overwhelmed, find someone 10 years younger than me and say, help me for 20 minutes, and don't feel embarrassed to feel stupid, and just say, I don't understand.
Yeah.
Help me understand, but don't live in fear.
Yeah.
I would
know?
be cautious of just getting your information on AI from news sources. So I think that's where a lot of people are getting their information still, and they
Very sensationalized.
want you. Yeah, they're sensationalized, and they want you to click on it, and that's why. So they're going to share information like 47%, when in reality we're looking at over the next 20 years possibly only 9% job turnover, which is more similar to what the economy actually naturally does already.
Yeah.
So they're using those statistics to scare you, get a click, and
You're telling me the data and number of people of today's age are tomorrow's coal miners? Is that what you're telling me?
sure.
Okay. Do it that way you will. That's Gregory, folks. All right. Hey, maybe we'll have another follow-up conversation, but it's been fun just to, dive into the waters a little bit. I know there's a whole ocean to explore when it comes to AI and all the realms and sectors and possibilities. But let us know your thoughts. Let us know what you're thinking about and maybe just what questions this spurred on. And as always, rate, review, subscribe. It's been a fun conversation. Until next week, we'll see you then.